What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another glorious episode of the one, the only, the Make Fit Happen podcast. I am your co-host, Senor Jupington Boardman, and joining me, as always, is the one, the only, Amanda. Hey, man, did you touch my drum set? Kim.
So weird because I'm pretty sure touch my drum set.
Touch my drum set. No, man, didn't touch my drum set.
No, it wasn't me.
Put my nuts. Put my nuts on your drum set.
On your drum set.
I love that. This is what is it? This is a fucking prison on planet bullshit.
I'm not calling him dad.
I'm not calling him dad ever. Even if there's a fire.
I don't expect you to, Brendan. You're 39 years old.
Right?
If he comes at me, I'm gonna roundhouse his ass.
I love that movie. I think that is probably one of my most favorite Will Ferrell movies, without a doubt. I think Step Brothers is probably my most favorite of all.
Step Brothers is an all-time classic.
Yeah, every time I see it, I laugh my ass off.
It's a Catalina wine mixer. We do it every year.
Fucking Also,
Catalina wine mixer.
I found this app and I thought it was fucking stupid until I finally figured out what the fuck it was. Called Peacock.
I've heard of it. Don't know what it is.
So I felt super dumb because I was like, Peacock, what the fuck? That's a stupid ass fucking name. And I realized that Peacock is, I think it's NBC. It's their fucking streaming app, and NBC's logo is a fucking peacock.
Oh my god!
And I felt so stupid whenever I finally figured it out. But
that's fucking dumb.
So dumb. But they have The Office on there, so I started to watch it. And
of course you did.
Of course I did, right? Because I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go fucking check it out. But they have they call it a super fan series, and it's like it has every single deleted scene is actually in the episode. So
oh really?
Yeah. So there's so many extra things in it, and I laugh my ass off every time. It's like a brand new show, basically.
You're like, it's like I started over again. I'm just starting over from
scratch. Right, yeah, because there's an episode where it's called the Watermark episode, but there's a character in there called Creed Bratton who's a fucking weirdo, and like there's a. Well,
have you ever noticed in all these shows, like the weird character is always called like Creed or Cregan or something like that?
Well, it's
like,
funny because
Archer, and
it's funny though because Creed Bratton. So Creed Bratton is a character, and his actual name is Creed Bratton. What happened was they're just like, yeah, whatever, we'll just make you Creed Bratton. And he was like, all right, because they weren't going to keep him. And then there was one episode that Creed was in, and everybody was like, I fucking love that character, so they kept him on for forever. So Creed Bratton's character, that actor's name is Creed Bratton.
Yeah, it's like when Robert Downey Jr. plays Iron Man, he's just playing himself.
Exactly. But there's an episode where like someone from the newscast comes back, and the guy goes, "You're Creed Bratton, and you played in the Little River Band in 1960. He goes, "Yes, I did. Good to meet you." And he goes, "I wrote your obituary 4 years ago." And he goes, "Oh, thank you. So you're right. That was such kind words." And then they interview him, and he was like, "For tax purposes, I faked my own death 4 years ago, and now I've been collecting and now I've been collecting alimony as my widow." And I wasn't in there before, and I was like, it's fucking Creed.
You're like, that's brilliant.
Fucking brilliant. Okay. Anywho's and Howard. Had to plug The Office in there. Just because I discovered the Peacock thing, and I think it's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Anywho's and Howard. Guys, today we're going to be talking about my most favoriteest, most delicious thing in the history of the whole entire world. Sugar. Pour some sugar on me. Ooh, in the name of love.
Dude, who sings that song?
I want to. You're gonna yell at me. Def Leppard.
Thank you.
Yes. my under the pressure, I was like, Lynyrd Skynyrd, and I was like, nope, that's not right. Don't say that.
Oh, I thought you were about to say Aerosmith, and I was like, you motherfucker.
No. I knew it was a two-word thing. I knew it was a two-word thing, and my brain immediately said Lynyrd Skynyrd, and I was like, nope. But I saw the album cover in my head.
You know what's funny? Most of the bands I listened to were at their highlight of the career before I was born. So people always think that it's weird. very old soul. People always think that's weird, and I'm like, this is the music that I listened to in middle school. I'm not joking. Like, I made this. I remember my calendar thing. I made a cover for it, and it had like the logo of like Black Sabbath, Aerosmith, Def Leppard, AC/DC, Megadeth, Metallica. What else was on there? Striker, Night Stalker, Dio.
Damn.
If you like, in my heart, it's always gonna be hair metal bands. Fucking love hair metal bands.
Does Starset count in there? Is that who that is? The one that does the "We Built This City"? Is that who that is? Does that count?
Starset? No.
Is that who they're called?
That
who the
they
fuck sings
kind of
that song?
count. They kind of count.
We-
but that
is that who-
definitely,
I don't know if that's the
definitely
band.
not Starset.
We built this Starship.
Thank you.
Starship.
You
I
were
knew it was Star
close.
something. I'm getting there.
You were close.
I don't have an
but
old
it
soul
was-
like you do, so
I know. I have such an old soul.
yeah.
Or
But
like,
but I've got you've got all the old people bands. I've got all of the dad shit, so I think we're covered.
there's this lady that pops up on TikTok where like she has dad jokes behind her and she laughs at them and she's a British lady. I send those daily to Jupe.
I love them.
Time.
They're hilarious
Because her reactions are the fucking best.
yeah, I 100% used one of those the other day. Which one did I use?
I don't know. They're good though. Some of them are actually pretty funny.
What do you call a fish that has a bow tie?
I don't know. What do you call it?
He's sophisticated. So dumb.
I wish I had Emily here. Wait, hold please. Hold please.
Hold please.
Hold please.
All right, guys. While she's getting Emily on the phone, today, guys, we're going to be talking about sugar. Sugar is basically in freaking everything. Not all sugar is created equally, though. Every single sugar is different. There's a couple different ones. So we're going to be talking about all of the different sugars today. It's going to be super duper good. I can't wait to learn about every single sugar in the whole entire world. Also, some people are saying that sugar is like the new cocaine, the new drug. Apparently, it releases the same type of hormones.
It affects the same parts of your brain as cocaine does.
So I
can't find the picture.
I don't know if that's true or not. So
that is true. So it does have the same chemical reaction in your brain and releases the same feel-good hormones that cocaine does.
Right.
Any drug, not just cocaine. Just people choose cocaine because it can be in a white powder and it kind of looks like sugar. So yada yada.
Sure.
But sure. But it's true. So that's why, like, when people eat sugar, they tend to be happy. It releases a little bit of dopamine and serotonin, so you get a little happy. When you
All
eat
the
some
good
sugar.
stuff. Yeah. All right, guys. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into fruit from sugar versus fruit from other fruit. Dumb bitch.
Fruits.
Sugar from all other carb sources. So let's get into what the fuck exactly is sugar.
So chemically speaking, sugar is basically a form of carbohydrate. It's the simplest form of carbohydrate, and it contains carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen.
Okay.
That's the molecular structure of it, right? So when it is a single molecule, it is defined as a monosaccharide, meaning one molecule.
One,
right?
mono means one.
Mono means one, right? And then two molecules is a disaccharide. And then anything that is
Why
three
isn't
molecules.
it called a bisaccharide?
Because di also means two.
Does it?
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between bi
Plus,
and
it's
di?
spliced.
Oh.
Because it's spliced. Like when they break it down, it breaks up into two very specific monosaccharide molecules.
Oh.
So it's diced and sliced, if that makes sense.
Diced. Why can't it be called a sliced saccharide?
Oh my god.
I don't know. Okay. Who's an hour? As you were. So there's a monosaccharide and a disaccharide.
Right. And then anything that is a 3-molecule chain or more, all the way up to a complex starch, for example, is called a polysaccharide.
Okay.
Meaning many.
Yeah, for sure. That makes total sense. So is sugar okay for us to even have? Like, we're always told how horrible sugar is for us.
So there is a clear difference between sugar that you find naturally in nature and sugar that is chemically produced and created, right? So the simple sugars that every kind of polysaccharide or disaccharide is broken up into is there's basically 4 types of pretty simple sugars, and that's glucose, sucrose, lactose, and fructose.
All the oses.
And what we're really looking at...
real quick, do you remember... Did you ever see the stupid fucking commercial back in the day? It was one of the health things. This is back whenever the world was on the sugars bad for you thing, and it was like in your cereal there are many different types of sugars, and they said those, and it goes basically it's whatever rhymes with gross. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
Yeah, right. That's what just popped in my head. Anyway, as you were.
That's hilarious. So basically what we're looking at here is out of those sugars, fructose is actually the only 5 carbon sugar.
Okay.
So there's a lot of...
You said fructose?
Fructose is.
Okay.
So there's a lot of misconception about like, is fructose actually good for you or bad for you? So we're going to dive into each one of those sugars and kind of figure out like, is fructose really worse for you or is it better for you, because fructose does come mostly from fruit. So
cool.
We're going to take a look at that. So we're going to start with glucose.
Let's do it.
Because glucose is the most common one. Right?
Where does this come from?
So this is the sugar that you find in your bloodstream. It keeps your body functioning and supplies the main energy source for all chemical reactions and enzyme mechanisms that happen.
Okay.
It's considered a monosaccharide. So it's one molecule. It's a single molecule. And for those of you that watch on the YouTubes,
the tubes calling you.
So this is, hold on. Let me turn down the brightness.
Hold, please.
So you can actually see it. So this is what the molecule of glucose looks like. So each one of those corners is a carbon. Okay. And what you see there is there's always an alcohol. So anything that's OH is considered an alcohol.
Oh.
Just so you know. So most of sugar, when it breaks down, it can break down into alcohols. Hence why when you don't have sugar, you have ketones, because that's what it gets broken down to anyway, and it gets stored. But glucose is 6 carbons, if you can see that. So like I said, each one of those pointed corners or each edge is a carbon.
What I'm looking at is a hexagon. BT dubs,
yes,
for those of y'all on the podcast.
So it's a hexagon shape. And then at each of those, there is one that is an oxygen, right? So that makes up the 6th one. But every other carbon that you see is either attached to an OH group, which is your alcohol group, or it is attached to CH2OH.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that is what the chemical structure is of glucose.
Okay. Gotcha. And this is the one, this is always in our blood.
This is always in our blood. It's considered a monosaccharide, like we said. The normal blood glucose range for humans is 90 to 130 milligrams, meaning you didn't recently eat a meal. You are awake. So just so you know, upon rising from sleep, your blood glucose can be lower than that. It could be 60 or 70 milligrams. That's completely normal.
You know what I need? I need a fucking sound bar is what I need. I need a fucking sound bar so I can just press a little button and make cute noises.
I know. I was going to say I need like an echo machine for you for your intro.
Right? That's what I'm saying.
So anyway, after a meal, your blood glucose can rise anywhere from up to 180 milligrams all the way up to 200 something milligrams, depending on how much sugar and carbohydrates you have in that meal, right? So those that suffer from diabetes fall into 2 categories. There's type 1, which doesn't produce enough insulin, leading to insufficient glucose in the bloodstream.
Okay.
So it's unregulated.
Okay.
And it can sway heavily from one side to another, meaning they can drop very, very low and they can go very, very high after or before a meal if it's not monitored. That's why a lot of people that have type 1 diabetes nowadays will have a pump that measures their blood glucose constantly and will release insulin accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then there's type 2 diabetes, which is you produce enough insulin, but the body does not respond to the insulin being produced, and therefore you oversaturate the blood with glucose because you keep producing it and keep pushing it into the bloodstream.
Okay. Now, I always get this confused. The type 1 is the one you're born with, correct? And type 2 is the one you develop?
Right. So type 1 you're either born with or you can develop when you're a teenager.
Okay.
but you usually develop it before you're 16. So anywhere from when you're born up until around 16 years old, you'll develop type 1 diabetes. And that is not reversible, unfortunately. Once you have it, you can't really reverse it, but you can live with it. It's not necessarily going to kill you or anything like that. Type 2 diabetes, very, very rarely is it genetic where you're going to have it regardless.
Right.
Most people will develop it as they get older, and most people develop it from poor diet, lack of exercise, and being overweight.
Okay.
Therefore, though, it's the only one that can be reversed if you take action to lose weight and change your eating habits.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. That means, and then, as far as glucose is concerned, right? Like where, like you can't consume glucose, correct?
No. So the only thing that is the closest thing that is to pure glucose is if you ate cornstarch, like pure cornstarch. Nothing. Ugh. People use it for baking, right?
Right.
So
and you can like use it to like thicken up sauces and stuff like that.
Yeah, but anytime you're mixing something like that with something else, the chemical reaction that occurs, even just with aerating, like with a whisk, or when you go to the extra mile of cooking it, it changes the molecular structure. So it's not the same anymore, right? Gotcha. So at that point, it's not pure glucose, because anytime you add heat, freezing, or any type of manual manipulation, which is whisking, will change the actual structure of a molecule, which then in case changes how that molecule is absorbed.
So then it's not glucose at that point.
Correct. It's not. And I think that messes with a lot of people because they don't realize that is very real. Like that is what happens when you cook food. Yeah. It changes the molecular structure. The best example I can give is, so if you cook an egg, right? If you open an egg, the liquid is clear and then the yolk is yellow, right? When you cook the egg, the liquid becomes solid and it becomes all white. That protein just denatured from the heat that you put on there. So the same vitamins and minerals that were in there when it was uncooked are not the same that you get when you cook it.
Interesting. Okay. Wow. The more you fucking learn, guys. That's why you guys got to tune in. So you all can get some fucking knowledge up in your brain cells.
So that's why there is a change that occurs there, right?
Gotcha.
So glucose is essential, and most starchy carbohydrates we intake is broken down in our body to become glucose at its most simplistic form, so we can utilize it for energy.
Gotcha.
And like we were talking about, there's really no way to purely ingest glucose. Even if you're diabetic, you're not purely ingesting glucose. What it's doing is it's inputting insulin, which tells your body to release glucose into the bloodstream, but you're not digesting actual.
Gotcha.
You're not putting in.
You're not shooting glucose up glucose. You're putting something in your body that triggers a reaction to have your body. It's very similar. Correct. It's very similar to like if you're taking a supplement that would like if you're not just taking straight testosterone, you are like, for example, like if you did a supplement that would increase your free testosterone. It's a supplement that makes your body make the substance.
Right, exactly.
Gotcha. Boom. Perfect. Love it. What's the next one we're going to talk about?
So the next one is going to be sucrose. So the most common form of sucrose is table sugar. Okay. So it's considered a disaccharide, meaning it's two molecules, unlike glucose, which is one. Okay. So sucrose contains a molecule of glucose and it contains a molecule of fructose. Okay. And we're going to show you here if you watch the video, right?
Watch YouTube. Focus.
So if you look, when I'm facing it, so the one right here, that's fructose. So you see how it looks more like a pentagon, right?
Right. And there's a little and this joined right there, right?
Right. It has one less alcohol and it has another CH2O2 instead, or CH2OH instead, right? What connects them is a bond with oxygen. So just so you know, a carbon atom can only bond with 4 other molecules. That's what's available to it. An oxygen atom can bond with up to 8. And then a hydrogen can only bond with 1. So that's why you see the oxygen and the H attached to it.
Right.
So they're bonded by an oxygen. So that's why when you break down carbohydrates and you go through the Krebs cycle, which is the major cycle that breaks down carbohydrates, you're always releasing oxygen.
Gotcha.
Because it's breaking up those molecules to release oxygen.
Okay.
And that's called beta oxidation.
Boom. Yo, we're getting into the nitty gritty here. Like, who the fuck needs a nutrition class? Who the fuck needs chemistry? Just listen to Amanda. She's got you. bypassing all that other bullshit that nobody needs.
I'm trying to make it as simple as possible.
Who the fuck needs to learning how a fucking don't do that bullshit ass fucking. What am I thinking of? Listen to my brain.
I don't
here.
know. You're doing a lot of hand motions, and I'm like,
like when you put the fucking shit in the can and it pops out the fucking what is it? When
centrifuge.
When you make the volcano, that's what I'm trying to think of. Don't do that shit. Learn this. This is more important than learning about what bullshit ass chemicals make fake lava.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And like the reason I show you the molecule structure is to make you understand like why they're so different, right? So there is a clear difference between fructose and the other molecules that we're going to look at.
Mm-hmm.
It is very unique compared to the other molecules.
Gotcha. You're sucrose.
Yeah. Well, but I was talking about fructose particularly, but sucrose is a disaccharide.
Gotcha.
That's the first disaccharide we're going to see, right?
Okay.
So it's mostly the sugar found in baked goods or your table sugar. Right,
like the sugar you put in your coffee, candy bars, cakes, cupcakes. So basically, the delicious sugar. Okay, cool.
Yeah, the powdered sugar, that kind of stuff, is most likely sucrose. Right?
Did you know that powdered sugar is just table sugar that's been put in a food processor?
I did know that. It's granulated to the absolute extreme.
I felt so dumb whenever I saw that the first time. I was like, "You told me I can make my own fucking powdered sugar."
You telling me I can make my own crack cocaine?
You're telling me I can make my own crack cocaine? Or as fucking Schmidt from New Girl say, cocaine. I'm just saying. New Girl is one of my other favorite shows to watch, by the way. So The Office and New Girl are the bomb. Continue.
So sucrose can be naturally occurring sugar. It can be found in plants and fruits and vegetables and in nuts. Sucrose is also produced commercially from sugarcane and sugar beets. So according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the top producing regions for sugar beets in the U.S. are western Minnesota, eastern North Dakota, and Idaho. U.S. sugarcane is produced in southern Florida, the Mississippi Delta region of Louisiana, and southern Texas.
Like sugarcane's got to be where there's some places like more humid. Yeah, one of my friends had actual like sugarcane in his backyard. It was very, very interesting because we'd actually go back there, snap it, and you can literally chew on it, and it would taste just like a candy. Obviously, don't eat the fucking sugar cane, but you could chew on it and get the sugar in there, though. Yeah,
so sugar cane looks like a long kind of plant.
It looks like bamboo.
Yeah, it does.
It looks like itty bitty, teeny weeny bamboo.
Yeah. So when we consume sucrose, it is broken down into equal parts of glucose and fructose. So glucose also ultimately gets taken up by our cells with the help of insulin, while fructose is handled in the liver and does not need insulin to be absorbed. So that's a big difference between fructose and glucose when you break it down, is fructose does not necessarily increase insulin like the way glucose does.
Interesting. Okay.
So regardless of its source, sucrose provides 4 calories per gram, and our bodies process it in similar ways, right?
Yeah.
This is not to say that all sources of sucrose are nutritionally equivalent. Some sources provide more nutrients than others, which can affect how we metabolize sucrose. So one such is fiber. While not always the case, fruits, vegetables, and nuts tend to contain more grams of fiber with them on top of the sugar than per se your packaged foods and beverages that have added sugar.
Right.
So fiber helps to slow rate of stomach emptying and digestion, was also reducing glucose absorption. Basically reduces the amount of insulin that's released, which slows down the amount of glucose that is absorbed in your bloodstream. So if you can eat a meal that contains more fiber, generally it has a lower impact on your blood sugar compared to meals that don't have fiber.
Gotcha. I didn't know that. Man, the more you know. All the fun facts you got to get put up there, you know? I'm just saying. The more fun facts you know, the better you're going to be at Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, you know? All right. The next one we're going to be talking about is lactose.
Yep. So lactose is also a disaccharide. It has 2 molecules combined. So what it takes is the glucose molecule and the galactose molecule, and it's found in milk products that come from cows, sheep, goats, other mammals, and even human breast milk.
The way that I remember where lactose comes from is because women lactate. That's from my brain because it's the same.
Well played.
It's the same Greek word. I would assume that lacto. Or lact, L-A-C-T, probably is like the Greek thing for milk. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what my brain does.
So I'm going to show the smaller image first. It may be hard to see on there. You can't really see it, so I'll try the bigger one. The smaller image just breaks down what the kind of middle molecule looks like in real life, whereas this larger image kind of shows, I don't know if you can see that, but
it's a little hard to see.
Yeah, it's a little hard to see. I figured. Try to see it. But anyway, so the difference is there's an oxygen in the middle, but actually attached to that oxygen is the carbon atoms and then 2 hydrogen atoms from those carbon atoms, right? And basically the galactose and glucose are antimers of each other, which means that they mirror each other. So if you were to take a mirror in the middle of a glucose molecule and you looked on the other side and it's flipped, basically that's the galactose molecule. And that is called an antimer when they look very similar, but they look like flips. Now, if it's the other way, vertical flip, it's actually called an isomer.
Oh, shit. My grandpa used to say, you need to learn one new thing every single day. And if you learn 2 new things, you get to rest the next day. So sounds like I'm taking the week off.
The things I remember from organic chemistry. There you go.
Right? Boom.
So lactose is used as bulking and flavoring agent and can be found in a variety of processed foods as well as a component of pills and medication. So that outer layer, a lot of times they'll use lactose to make that shell casing. Like
the gelatin?
Either the gelatin or even some of the hard casings, like the hard. So if you think of have you ever had the Tums chewable ones? So the outside of the Tums is actually made of a bit of lactose.
Okay.
So you can suspect that food has lactose if it says may contain milk or may contain milk products. And it may also include ingredients such as whey, casein, milk byproducts, curds, butter, milk solids, and milk products. All those type of products will contain some type of lactose in it.
Gotcha.
So in order to digest lactose, your body produces the enzyme lactase. So if you always see the name of an enzyme, it always has ACE at the end. ACE just means that it's the cutting or it's the breaking of something.
Okay.
So, and the same thing when you see a lysis also means cutting of the molecule. So you need the lactase enzyme to break down lactose, or you do not digest the lactose well. And if it affects 30 to 50 million Americans are lactose intolerant, and it's more prevalent in some ethnic populations than others. So, for example, most Asian cultures, so Japanese, Chinese, Korean, they have much higher incidence of lactose intolerance than say the average American.
Why is that?
Culturally, they don't eat a lot of dairy products.
Yeah,
like they rely a lot on the oceans because they're right up against it. So they don't necessarily have huge farms that have a lot of livestock. And most of our milk comes from livestock. It comes from mammals. They don't have a huge plethora of that, so they don't really consume it.
Right. So therefore, their bodies have just adjusted.
Correct. So they've adapted and basically have some type of lactose intolerance going on.
When you mentioned may contain milk, that reminded me of something that happened today. Apparently, there was this is not related to our topic of the day, but it crossed my path. Apparently, there was this individual that was speaking to a lawyer, and the lawyer said, "This is not a dad joke, by the way, so you don't have to prepare yourself to laugh your ass off from a joke." The person talking to a lawyer, and the lawyer was like, "Hey, do you know why every single Taco Bell thing has like beefy gordita crunch, beefy tacos, like all that kind of stuff?" It's like, no, why? I thought that was like, oh, beefy. They're like, no. It's called beefy because it has enough meat in it to give it a meat flavor, but there's not enough beef in it to say a beef gordita crunch.
So what's in it?
Good fucking question. So when everything you see from Taco Bell is like, oh yeah, can I get a beefy gordita crunch? Can I get a beefy taco? It's not beefy as in like, yeah, it's real beefy. It's beefy because it has enough in it to make it taste like beef, but not enough to actually call it a beef taco.
I don't like that. This is why I don't eat Taco Bell.
That is Katie's go-to.
Dude, I
Food.
value my butthole. I don't want to be on the toilet forever.
That's her like anytime she's drunk, it's always like Taco Bell run. Off we go.
How does her asshole survive the fiery poops? I just don't understand.
You're gonna have to ask her that. I don't know.
No, thank you.
No, thank you. All right, guys. That brings us to the whole reason we're doing this episode. The one, the only, fructose.
So fructose is a monosaccharide, like glucose.
Mm-hmm.
However, it is unique because it's a pentacarbon. So like we were talking about, it has 5 carbon molecules, meaning really it has 4 carbons and an oxygen, but they still call it a pentacarbon. Meaning it has 5 carbons connected each, while other glucose molecules have other sugar molecules like glucose has 6.
How come they don't call it a what is 6-sided? What's the 6-sided word?
Hexagon.
Why don't they call it a hexacarbon?
They do. They call it a hexacarbon.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Continue. See, I'm just learning. I'm just learning with you guys. Okay.
So this is fructose.
See, 5 sides.
You see it. So if you 5 sides, I think my other picture might have been a little bit better.
Yeah.
Or either that or it's too bright still. Hold
Boom.
on.
Oh, there you go. That was the one.
Yeah. So it's 5 sides, right? So you got the oxygen molecule at the very top corner. You have hydrogens connected to those carbons, and then you have 2 CH2OH molecules, right? So
what is this?
So fructose is an interesting molecule, I will say the least, right?
Okay.
So it's
as interesting as molecules are, it's the most interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's naturally found in most fruits and is considered nature's natural sugar. Fructose is a natural sugar that is present in fruits, fruit juices, certain vegetables, and honey. In these forms, fructose sugars can be part of a healthful diet, basically. However, fructose is also a component of high fructose corn syrup, which manufacturers make from cornstarch and add to unhealthful foods such as sodas and candies. Researchers are studying the links between high fructose foods and obesity, diabetes, and even some cancers. However, there's also some evidence that indicates that fructose is not necessarily a public health concern when a person consumes it in moderation. So really, what you have to be mindful of is it's not fructose itself.
Right.
It's
the fructose corn syrup.
Right. So they connect it to cornstarch, which we talked about is basically like pure glucose. That's the closest thing you're going to get, right?
And then
so when
you're over here fucking up the fucking cellular structure by making it together. Right?
Yeah. So when you combine it together, the problem with that is you are taking double the glucose. I shouldn't say double the glucose, but basically you're taking a fructose molecule, attaching it to glucose, trying to makeshift a form of sucrose. However, it's not sucrose.
Right.
Because what happens is, depending on the high fructose corn syrup, there's either one extra hydrogen or there's one less hydrogen, which makes it radical.
Right.
So anytime there is a electron floating around a molecule that's supposed to be connected, it's considered a free radical. That free radical causes massive damage in your cell because we have no way to basically absorb that energy, and we have no way of kind of nerfing the free radical. Antioxidants help, but they don't necessarily cure it. So it's the same thing with trans fats. Trans fats kind of have the similar thing. It's this manufactured molecule that shouldn't exist in nature, that scientists have created, because the whole reason they created it is how well it stores. So it doesn't sour the same way that fruits and other sugary things do.
Right.
So shelf life is really important. And it could be solid, it could be liquid. It doesn't matter, but it kind of mixes with everything. So, and it's much sweeter than normal sugar is. So they can use less of it. So it saves on cost.
So it's profitable. So it sounds like all this high fructose corn syrup is what's causing fucking cancer and all that shit, because those fucking free radicals are damaging your cells, which are causing your fucking cells to multiply and not unmultiply. And then you get fucking cancer.
Yeah. So basically, like we were saying, is fructose is the sweetest of the naturally occurring calorie sweeteners by itself, right? So fructose occurs naturally in fruits, fruit juices, honey, and even some vegetables. Pure fructose is much sweeter than other types of sugar. As a result, people can use less fructose than other sugars in cooking to achieve the same sweetness, right? And then, basically sugar coming from fructose is naturally it's not terrible for you,
Right.
but it's the fact that it's always combined and manipulated
with everything.
And that's why I was saying the 5 aspect of it is important,
Right.
because it is one less carbon or one less molecule than the rest of the sugars. It's easier to manipulate that sugar and create a molecule or create a new substance from it, because you have space to add something, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
right?
Because
Like,
of all of them are 6 and the one is 5, there's a space.
Right. A 6 carbon is super stable.
Right.
To put it in perspective, a 6 carbon molecule is super stable. A 5 carbon molecule is not as stable, but it gives you room to add something. When you add something, you make more of a stable molecule. However, you have just manipulated the chemistry of it. So
that's so crazy that you say that, because I remember we did a physics experiment way back in the day, and you know what the most stable shape is in the world, period?
What?
A triangle.
Triangle.
A triangle is the most stable shape. So that's so crazy that you say that, because a hexagon is basically 2 triangles, because there's 6 points. So you can make 2 triangles. So that's so crazy. Man, nature.
So nature's always looking for stability, right?
Yeah.
So natural fructose from fresh fruit and vegetables is good for a person's health. Processed forms of fructose, such as high fructose corn syrup, may have negative health effects. Scientists are currently studying how this type of sweetener compares with other forms of sugar. So some researchers believe that the body processes fructose differently than other types of sugar, which would make sense because it doesn't affect your insulin as much and it's not absorbed the same way. It goes directly to your liver.
Right.
Right. So in particular, there's concerns when a person consumes fructose in excess, it may stimulate the body to deposit extra fat, especially in the liver, which is not a good thing.
Nope.
So this may contribute to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which can kill you, by the way.
Yeah. So eating all these foods, are they finding a correlation of the high fructose corn syrup to this specifically?
What they found is, and they're not targeting high fructose corn syrup, but really it is what's being targeted, because basically it would be very difficult to eat an excess of fructose.
Like if you got fruit. Yeah, or like from honey or something like that.
Yeah. Or more naturally occurring.
Yeah.
However, to do it from high fructose corn syrup, it's super easy because it's saturated with fructose.
Yeah, it's like having like a concentrated. It's like drinking beer versus liquor, I would assume. It's like a very concentrated form of it versus something that's not concentrated.
Exactly. So eating excess amounts of fructose is associated with inflammation that could lead to insulin resistance and increased development of fat, as it may alter the way that the body breaks down fats and carbohydrates. And it puts you at a greater risk of obesity and anything related to them, such as metabolic syndrome, like we talked about.
We talked about that in an episode. If you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to it. Plug.
And then the other problem is it's more sweet, right, than normal sugar, but it doesn't make you as full. So you eat more of it.
Gotcha. Wow.
Compared to when you eat a piece of fruit that has fructose, it has pectin and fiber from the skin of the fruit.
Yep.
And some fruit doesn't have just fructose. It's usually mixed with sucrose. So you're not eating just pure fructose. Pure fructose by itself is what they're looking at, which is high fructose corn syrup.
Right.
That really has these negative side effects associated with it.
Okay.
So although there is evidence that excess fructose consumption is bad for health, it is difficult for researchers to separate the effect of fructose in the diet from those of other sugars, because very rarely, like I said, do you find fructose by itself.
Other than HFCS.
High fructose corns. Yeah. This is because foods that contain high levels of added fructose usually also contain high levels of other sugars, such as glucose, such as sucrose, or such as lactose.
Gotcha. So it's hard to, from a scientific study perspective, it's hard to limit the variables of the study whenever they're doing this, right? That's what it sounds like, because they have multiple variables that are happening. They can't just target fructose because of the fact that during the study, they're also when they're looking for the HFCS, high fructose corn syrup, they are having all these other things in there as well. So they can't limit the variables to do a true scientific study and research.
Correct.
Gotcha.
So there is literature from 2016, from 2017 that shows the negative side effects. They looked at teenagers specifically because they were looking at high fructose corn syrup in drinks, and it led to higher levels of insulin resistance, which is a marker for hardened arteries, diabetes, and heart disease in adults. But then in 2014, states that fructose did not have specific effects on the body that can cause weight gain when compared with eating sugar from other sources. So that's where the discrepancy is, because they have yet to prove that it's just fructose, or is it just overconsumption of sugar in general that causes these issues, no matter the source, whether it's fructose, glucose, sucrose, lactose, whatever it may be.
Any of the OSs.
Right. To date, right now, the United States Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA, says that they are not currently aware of any evidence that foods containing high fructose corn syrup are less safe than other foods containing similar sweeteners such as sucrose and honey. However, keep in mind they make money off of this.
I was gonna say, that sounds like a big ass load of horse
very
shit.
Biased. That's the cracks me up. So, like, yes, the FDA is supposed to be for America's best interest or whatever. They make money. Okay,
no one's out for America's best interest. Everyone's out for who the fuck's gonna fill their goddamn bank accounts. Let's be real here.
Industry. So you have to always take that with a grain of salt, right?
Let's be real here, okay? Like,
however, they do list that high fructose corn syrup is the most controversial of fructose containing foods, as should it be safe to eat.
I'm extremely unamused.
They do advise people to limit the amount of added sugars they eat and the amount of high fructose corn syrup they eat.
I'm very unamused right now. I'm fucking pissed.
Yeah, I know.
It's right there.
I know.
What do you mean? It's right there. You can fucking see it. Connect the fucking dots.
Yeah, but they make a lot of money of it.
It's like
cheap.
Oh,
it's very cheap to make high fructose corn syrup, by the way. It is very cheap. And like I said, because it's so much sweeter, you don't have to put as much of it. So, it saves money. It alters shelf life of food. Yeah. That's a big industry where you're making a lot of money.
So we can call it, let's, I don't know, to kind of put it into, I'm making up numbers, by the way, don't quote me on any of this fucking shit. So let's say to get to a desired sweetness, okay, of a food that you're making, it needs 1 tablespoon of sugar, right? To get your desired sweetness. Instead, it would be, I don't know, what do you think, an 1/8 or a 1/16 of that amount of high fructose corn syrup instead of regular sugar, right? So it's an 8 or a 16th, and then it'll last you. It'll be in the fridge for a month if you used sugar, regular sugar, right? Table sugar. Then if you do HFCS, high fructose corn syrup, it can last 3 months instead. So there's less waste, so there's less money going down the drain, and it costs them less to put it in there. So obviously they're not going to say, "Oh yeah, by the way, this could give you fucking cancer."
Oh yeah, by the way, this is bad for you.
This is bad for you and gives you cancer. They're going to go,
"We're making a shit ton of money off of it, so fuck it."
Oh my god, fucking exactly.
So here's the contradictory information, right? So fructose does not trigger insulin release, like we talked about before. Nor does it trigger the release of hormones such as leptin, which a lot of people associate. If you have high leptin levels, you have trouble losing weight, because leptin, basically, the simplest way to put it is leptin tells your body to keep as much fat as possible because it thinks you're starving and doesn't know when your next meal is. So therefore, it lowers your metabolism and tries to hold on to as much body weight as possible. That's kind of what leptin's responsible for, right? So it tells the brain that a person is full, or inhibits hormones that tell a person's body that they are hungry. So fructose by itself, right, that comes from fruit and stuff, is not bad because it has a lot of beneficial factors. Sure. However, do I think that your only carbohydrate or sugar source should be fruit? No, I don't. Even fruit, you should limit the intake.
Also, I guarantee you it's fucking impossible. There's no way you could even humanly do that because of how Western nutrition is. There's no fucking way. Okay, I was trying to limit my carbs for a while. Like, there's no fucking way to get your only carbohydrate supply from fruit.
And there's certain fruits that are super high in
Yeah.
sugar, which means they're going to be higher in fructose. That's grapes, bananas.
Yep.
No, someone's going to be real upset I said grapes, but anyway. Grapes, bananas.
I mean, it is what it is.
And the less watery fruits, basically. So
I
cherries
believe
are another one.
blackberries have the lowest amount, right?
Blackberries have the lowest amount, but grapes, bananas, cherries, and then strawberries have some of the highest amounts.
Interesting.
Now, and then watermelon's like a close fifth, even though the majority of watermelon is water content.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why it's called a watermelon, because it's got water.
So like we were saying, as a result, researchers suggest that fructose is more harmful to a person because they are more likely to eat more than if they had eaten food containing glucose. However, you can't eat pure glucose. You're eating some form of it that then is broken down to glucose in your body, right? So I always think a person should remember that foods with glucose-containing sugars still have calories. Excess calories intake can lead to weight gain regardless. So the moral of the story is fruit terrible for you? No. Should you still limit the amount of fruit you eat? Probably yes.
And the FDA is crooked as fuck.
High sugar content in general is not great for you. So it can cause energy spikes. It can cause dips. It can cause acne. It can cause lack of feeling full is a big one, especially if you're trying to lose weight. Like, it's good if you're trying to satisfy that sweet tooth when you're trying to lose weight and you're on a calorie deficit. It's bad because some people, after they eat it, they're still even more hungry than before they ate it. There's that big caveat there.
Yep. It ain't good, guys. It ain't good, and the FDA sucks. I'm fucking pissed. I'm triggered.
Dude, that's like every single one of them. Right now. FDA, USDA, they all have ulterior motives.
Everybody's got a fucking thing in their pocket. Everybody's got a fucking. They have a horse in the race.
Yeah.
Bullshit. Why can't people just do the right thing? ELE. Everybody love everybody.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Guys, that's all I got for you today. The FDA sucks. Fructose isn't bad.
About high fructose corn syrup is
high
bad.
Fructose corn syrup is shitty. It's gonna give you fucking cancer. I'm just kidding. I'm not allowed to say that. Not great for you. Please be very careful with what you guys are consuming. Eat a well-rounded diet, and that's it.
That's all she wrote.
That's all she wrote. Guys, until next time, this has been the Make Fit Happen podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Until next time, love, peace, and protein.
Peace.